$40. No, fuel is crazy right now. We'll call this Thursday, June 30th, Johnson County School Board meeting open. Everybody would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll move that we approve the agenda with a addition of consideration and extension of the superintendent's contract at the end of the meeting.
I'll make it.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Agenda's been amended as discussed. Any public comments, Ms. Amanda, on this super early morning?
Everybody's asleep.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the consent items on a single board vote? For the public, that includes meeting minutes from April 21st, May 25th, June 9th, as well as financial data, which includes bills, payroll, revenue and expenditure reports, and appropriation requests.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent items. Any discussion? All those in favor? Dr. Armagast?
Thanks, sir. And if you're okay with it and the board's all right with it, I'm gonna kind of move into it, not really instructional update, but an update. We have a guest with us this morning, Paul Hamner with Southern Air. He's here to talk a little bit about return on investment for water softeners and that sort of thing with the board. And we asked him just to share some information briefly with the board so that we had that information available to us as we proceed through that process. So with that, Paul, I'll turn it over to you and welcome. Thank you for coming this morning. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me. And that was a refreshing thing to see you guys up in the fair. That was a wonderful deal. Thank you. Mike Brown had asked us to come down and take a look and see what you all had in the way of need for softeners and that type of thing, filtration in the schools. And I went with him and looked over a number of all the locations and came up with, he had a couple different tracks he wanted to explore. We looked at those in the sense of, you're having problems with scale formation and dish machines and things like that, and they're not lasting very long. Water heaters, the same thing, issues with that. And all that relates to hard water applications. We went around to the schools and looked, and one of the approaches that he was interested in pricing on was just softening the hot water going to the dish machines. Another was the idea of softening the cold water that goes into the water heater that services the kitchens. When I talked to him, I strongly advised him to stay away from the hot water heater, the hot water softeners. They're very problematic. I've been doing this for 45 years, and they're just a big pain in the neck. They don't last very long. They're very expensive, and it's a constant maintenance issue. If you can soften the water while it's cold, it's much, much better off. The equipment will last, 8-10 times longer, much less maintenance headaches. Plus, you get the benefit of everything in the facility that is serviced by that hot water is going to have soft hot water. And the reason that it's an issue with softener, why you need to have soft hot water is that the scale that forms first at the hottest spot in the system, which is all the hot water applications. If you've got a water heater in your house, the do you have problems with the cold water side of your piping? No, it's the water heater that goes bad, because when you heat up the water, the minerals don't stay in solution and they fall out and make rocks. And that's what fouls your equipment. At any rate, we started out looking at Narrows Elementary School, which already has a water softener there, and which is in its, I guess, root form as a fine piece of equipment. I've been working on that series of valves for 30, 40 years. And the problem is it was designed wrong. It regenerates based on time. A water softener tank has a fixed volume of water that it'll handle before it has to go through a regeneration process. Well, that unit there has got a time clock on it, so it just regenerates every so many days, regardless of how much water's gone through it. A much better way to do it is to measure the water going through the unit and regenerate it when it needs to, based on the fact it's used up its capacity. And the problem you're experiencing there is the fact that, you know, you may overshoot or undershoot that mark on a continuous basis. So you get this huge, expensive piece of equipment that's not doing its job for you. He had a vendor that suggested that it needed to be rebuilt. I saw no signs that the valve needs to be rebuilt. Usually there's particular places that leak on it that indicate that as being a problem. I didn't see any of that. What I would do if it was mine is we can change the control system on it that'll allow it to regenerate based on water usage. That would be much money better spent, would be just converting that thing to work off of demand, not on the time basis. The other thing that could be a problem there is there seems to be a lot of iron in the water there, and that affects water softener resin. What effect it has had on that unit, we won't know until we can get it to regenerate correctly. Once it's regenerating correctly, we can evaluate the resin to find out whether that needs to be replaced. But I don't think, one of his questions was to get a quote on replacing that unit. I don't think that's necessary. I think it's waste your money. I would start off first by upgrading the controls to regenerate on demand, and then evaluating the resin, and based on that, you may have to rebed the thing, but I got a feeling that you won't have to do that. And then also the type of salt that they use there they have to use what's called iron fighter salt. It helps strip the iron off the resin and the softener when it regenerates. At any rate, there are a lot of things you can do that are not near all that expensive that really get that unit back working right, when it costs you a whole lot less than a new unit or a new valve or any of the rest of it that goes with it. The other schools we went and looked at, all of them except for Eastern Elementary School have a system that the kitchen hot water is separate from the whole building hot water. In other words, you have a separate water heating system just for the kitchen. In those cases, I would strongly suggest put a cold water softener on the water going into the water heater. So you preserve everything that water serves, and you got a piece of equipment that's going to last a long time and be much less problematic. Putting softeners on just a dishwasher or just a steamer kettle. If you do that, the one on the steamer kettle, you have a softener sitting out in the middle of the kitchen that people are going to drag salt bags into. It's just a bad location to put something like that. You'll end up beating a piece of equipment up, and it'll be a maintenance headache. So at any rate, I hope that's helpful to you. I've got copies. I don't know if y'all have seen the proposal that I sent Mike, but I've got copies of that for y'all here.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
So, in the majority of the buildings, you were able to find a place that you could install that on the cold water feed that feeds the dedicated water heater for the kitchen area.
Most of the places, yeah, there are a few. One of the things in our proposal is that the installation, I've given him prices on the equipment. The installation is going to be done on a time and material basis, because we really didn't have that. There's a lot of questions yet on actual layout of where exactly stuff's got to go. I didn't see anything that would look like would be hindering the situation, but you know, wherever you put the softener, you gotta have, you know, regular outlet, 120 volt outlet, which is generally no big deal, but you have to have a floor drain capable of handling the flow that the unit's gonna put out. And most floor drains will do that, but we'd have to, that's information we just didn't have. I think most of the places it'll work out pretty good. One of the schools, Narrows High School, we couldn't get into the room where the softener went. Would go is down underneath their kitchen area. And so that's something that I really didn't have an eye on at the actual installation site. But,
And of other places that you've looked, schools, is this a typical issue? Because we're not on wells, we're on water treated by the PSA, so I'm wondering if that's an unusual thing for.
No, water hardness is not a criteria in potability.
Right.
You can have water that stinks, tastes terrible, and be perfectly safe to drink. You have water that tastes wonderful, it'll kill you dead. You know, it's a difference between potability and cosmetics, as it were. But having water this hard is not uncommon. And it's really a moderate amount of hardness. But the key is when you heat it, when you send the temperature up, the solubility of the hardness minerals goes down. In fact, if you have a steam boiler, you can't have any hardness going into the thing. You'll make rocks like right now. And the bad thing too is that not only are you creating scale in the vessel, which will shorten its life, but you're also killing yourself energy-wise. That scale that forms has got a 20 times greater insulating effect than the steel is trying to transfer the heat through. And so when you put a layer of scale on the outside of things, your energy bills are going up fighting that insulation you've just coated the machine with. And so you're going to save energy on top of that, of the fact of making your equipment last longer. So.
One thing I do think we need to see from a standpoint of, because we've had a lot of different proposals about different locations, I think as a board we need to understand before we approve this, how much those chemicals cost and how it's going to be affected for the life of the softener, and how that cost is going to be affected by the location of that. I think that's something that.
Are you talking the equipment costs or operational costs?
The operational cost of the softener itself.
Well, one of the things that we don't know right now is the amount of water it's actually going to be going through. There's no records of that. You can get a water bill for a month out of the school, but it's not segregated off to the hot water for the kitchen. And you get a dartboard and figure it out. There's no way to know that right now. I can tell you how much, the cost of salt is all your operational costs are going to be, and it really is not a lot of money. I can actually break it down and show you how many pounds of salt each unit would use during regeneration and how many gallons of water that would provide. I haven't gotten that far. I can send that to you as a supplement, but it's a minor expense.
Well, something that might be helpful for us later, and Mike can talk about this with you. It might be worth putting a meter in when we install these softeners.
Well, actually, they'll have a meter built into it.
So the softener will tell how much water is going through that, totalizing flow monthly.
The controls that are built into our softeners, as a matter of fact, all the softeners would, except for the hot water ones. The hot water ones can only work off of time because nobody makes a metering system that will stand the hot water going through it. It just tears them up. All the other softeners, the cold water versions, all have controls on them that regenerate based on demand. So every one of the softeners we're talking about would have demand regeneration based on usage. They also will totalize gallons, and it'll also give you your peak flow rates as well as the gallons between your generations. A lot of really good diagnostic information that the little computers built onto the thing records for you, and actually show you, you can look and say, okay, Mondays we use this much water, and we've used that, got average of that for the last month. Tuesdays, it's pretty impressive, the amount of information you get.
That's good. How long does that data stay stored on that unit?
I think it's, well, the gallons stay forever. I mean, there's a continual totalization. And then the peak, it shows the peak water usage at any given moment between the last regeneration and the current time. So that's when it shows the peak, and then it'll also show the instantaneous peak. So you can go turn on all the faucets and see what the maximum throughput is.
I'm just saying, if he would need to go download that data every once in a while to make sure it doesn't get overwritten, or does it just keep collecting?
I think it records a month at a time on a daily averaging basis, but the total water usage would be, that runs, that's a set figure unless you go in and manually reset it, it just continues to count up.
Okay.
It's far more information than you got now. I mean, in sizing these things, three things you got to know when you size them is, number one, the amount of hardness in the water. Number two, generally idea how many gallons of water you might use in the course of a day. And the most critical thing is, what's the peak flow? You know, last thing I would do is be the guy stepping on a hose feeding water to your building and the guy pinching the line off because I don't have equipment big enough to handle the flow. So we've kind of pushed, we've had to take some educated guesses on that because there's just no data available to figure it out. But by doing a fixture count and by looking at the dish equipment, we've come up with what we believe will work as best as we can tell. I've got an outline here. I'll give you that kind of goes through each school. And
So if we were to put a meter on each of those kitchen facilities the first of the year, collect data,
but this you
have
don't
you data that you would actually know how much difference in price could that make in size? Are you having to way oversize because you don't know?
No, I think we're real close in the ballpark, and it's the sizing is not going to make that big of it. The cost between going up or down one step on either one of any of these offers is not going to make a huge difference price wise.
But I think if I wouldn't wait. That's the problem. We're going to end up buying a new dishwasher if we don't wash it.
Exactly. That's it to me.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
So Eastern, you can't get to the kitchen second. You have to treat every gallon of water goes into that entire campus, Eastern Elementary.
Yes. However,
We couldn't do any kind of repiping for you and.
well, you have to put another hot water source in there. That's still got a great big tank water heater that services everything. It'd be a good idea down the road. I mean, one of the schools, I believe it was Giles High School, you got the instantaneous water heaters in there. I would go that direction at that school, for future. That's a good idea. And speaking of that, it's critical, particularly when you have this instantaneous water heater. Those things are just really, really tough on. They'll scale up and they'll ruin them in a hurry if you have hard water going to them. They're very, very critical on water chemistry. You can kind of see here the different units, the gallons of capacity, like Narrows Elementary School. We're generating between 20 and 25,000 gallons of water go through it. That's a lot of water. We got the flow capacities for that unit and the hardness that's in that water there. Kind of laid out the details on each unit.
So that's for the whole building as well?
This is for the units that we recommended that are for pre-softening just the the cold water going into the hot water equipment.
You're not replacing theirs.
You're not replacing theirs, you're just fixing theirs.
Theirs are fixing.
Theirs elementary already has one. I just don't, now I'm trying to get it operational, doing what's supposed to be done, because
I just don't know how much chemical costs increase, but I hate to have to treat every gallon of water that goes into the entire campus at any of those campuses.
You can see on the quote here, I broke it out to the different, they're in different groups based on the equipment. At Narrows Elementary School, our best recommendation is to upgrade to current softener. That's $58,000 and change here for that. If you wanted to rebuild the existing valve, which won't fix your problem, there's a cost for that. If you want to replace a valve, which also won't fix the problem, there's a cost for that. If you want to replace the whole softener, which will fix the problem because we put a softener in with demand regeneration on it, there's a price for that. But to be honest with you, the $5,800 up top to just change up the controls on the existing softener is all you have to do. At Eastern Elementary School and Giles High School, the same equipment is recommended. And our primary recommendation is there's a first unit in the list there. If you chose to just soften the cold water to the steamer and then the hot water for the dishwasher, there's prices for softeners for that. So the cost of doing those two small softeners is almost as much as soften everything going to the whole area. And it's pretty much the same thing. It's actually less expensive to put a softener for the whole area on Marcy and Narrows High School than it is to fix the steamer and the hot water dish machine softener. Another benefit that I noticed, every one of these locations had a laundry right there at the site that was fed by the same hot water. Well, when you soften your water, your laundry, you cut your soap usage about 25% of what it would be with hard water. So you'll save money there on detergent and the effect that would cause.
Upgrading Narrows Elementary School is more expensive than the work you would propose for both Macy and Narrows to Harrison High School together.
So again, I'm sorry.
yes.
The upgrade to an existing system we have now at $58.92 is more expensive than the work you would propose for both Macy Elementary and Narrows High School together.
That's right.
So I don't.
The difference here, this softener softens all the water going to the whole complete facility. That water softener has a 3-inch valve on it. It's a huge system.
Why wouldn't we just do what we're doing here so it softens just what goes in the kitchen and get rid of a unit that's costing us?
How much to get a unit like that? I mean, I think we got to look at the investment that was made whenever the thing was put in. How much would that have been originally?
That would have been close to around probably, I would bet you spent $18,000, $19,000 on that piece of equipment originally.
So, I mean, I think the difference is it may be worth it from a standpoint of replacing that. Because otherwise, somebody else wasted 18 grand.
We don't have to throw it down.
It's not, we'll get benefit from, I mean, there's other benefits to having soft water throughout the building.
Yeah, flush valves. Another thing too, it narrows, is you have a lot of iron in the water, and that's going to cause fouling and flush valves and faucets and things like that. And also, from what I understand, we've got some work going in there in the near future, they're putting a cooling tower in there. It's going to have a great effect on that too. The water treatment for that is, that water softener will be big benefit to the cooling tower. You won't scale up the cooling tower because you get rid of the scale before it even gets there. You'll still need some water treatment, but you're far better off if you can get rid of the scale forming minerals before it even gets to the tower.
Yeah, I didn't think about the new equipment.
And to be honest with you, we went in with, you know, Mike, I didn't even look to see what it would take to put a softener just for the, you know, the water supply for the kitchen. And I don't even know that it's a segregated system either. He wanted to rebuild that one as well, you know, looked at refurbishing or replacing that unit is what we originally were asked to do.
I mean, I'm just looking at that. If it was comparable, it would be $2,300 if it had a dedicated cold system to the kitchen versus $5,800 that we're putting in. But if we're gonna get benefit over the whole system.
I mean, you already got it in and you'll probably save it from what, with the iron scale that you get, you probably end up saving money from the toilets leaking.
This is kind of the detail that the proposal I sent Mike for you guys to look through when you get a chance.
Thank you.
Did you say that Harris had more iron than the other schools?
Yeah, I'm wondering, it's an older building, I'm wondering if there's some reason that iron piping coming into place or.
It's all the same water. Everybody gets water from the treatment plant right down here, down the road from the PSA. So it's interesting that the
You got
makeup.
the oldest pipes in there. It's kinda-
Yeah, it's piping. And in fact, the
Different. I took on this side, that's actually softer water.
the way I figured it out, you had the iron problem out is that when you have iron in the water and it messes with the hardness test. It changes the endpoint, the look of the chemistry, and I was like, man, that's because the information Mike had given me that he had gotten was that the hardness there was extremely high compared to other places, and my thought was, it's not on a well, it's on the same system as a high school right across the hill here. What's the difference? And that's what it boils down to is there's something in the piping there that is causing the iron, you know, to be added into
The grant money available to upgrade water systems based on that. That's kind of my craft. So I don't know if the town may want to maybe look into improving some things so we have a little less issues at the high school.
Sounds like a sales call for you, my friend.
No. I know they.
We'll set up the appointment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next couple of council members you do too.
That's a different topic. Yeah, that's interesting information that water's different.
I was not expecting, that threw me for a loop at first, but just kind of, here's my card. If you guys have any other questions, please give me a call. Happy to help you out.
We appreciate you coming out and spending time. We've been chasing this thing around in circles for.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, when I looked at that softener at Narrows Elementary School, I was like, man, somebody sold these people something that if they'd have bothered to put the right controls on to begin with, you wouldn't be having any of the problems with that. They just got the poor design work. That personally just bothers me. Like, come on, guys. Anyway, any question, anything else I can help you out with?
Is there a delay of getting any of the equipment in, like anywhere else?
The only thing that may be a problem is the upgrading the controls on the Narrows Elementary School. The company that makes that valve has got longer lead times than we'd like to see at this point. Of course, nowadays, lead times are changed with the wind, so you never know. The rest of the equipment is by a different the valves are by a different manufacturer, and I picked them specifically because I knew that their lead times were better, and actually they're easier to rebuild when you got to work on them. It's a better system to work on from the standpoint of ease of repair time. So, and actually the computers on these, the other ones are a step up from what, the one that we're recommending for Narrows Elementary School has got a computer on it. It doesn't give quite as much information as the other brand's computers, but gives you all the essentials. Flow rates and gallons, huddles, and that kind of thing. All right.
Paul, appreciate your time, appreciate you coming today and joining and sharing that information. Thank you. And when Dr. Brown gets back in next week, he and I will have conversations to
Okay.
see the best course of action.
Here's another set of paperwork.
I'll make sure I give it to him.
All right. Well, thank you all for giving me the time.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Take care.
See you now.
At this time, I have some personnel items I need to ask the board to approve. I need to ask the board to approve the following employment. Brenda Mitro, Mason McClarity Elementary teacher, effective for the 22-23 school year. Melissa Martin, Giles High School Family Consumer Science for the 22-23 school year. Tashina Tickle, Giles High School Secretary, effective July 5th, 2022. Jeannie Dudding, Giles High School Ag Teacher, effective July 1, 2022. Marina Riley, transfer from Giles High School to Giles Tech Center, Early Childhood Teacher for the 22-23 school year. Samantha Gilreff, Giles High School Special Education Teacher for the 22-23 school year. Jeff Turner, Narrows Elementary Middle School Teacher Assistant, 22-23 school year. Transfer of Tanya Patterson from COVID nurse to Narrows High School nurse, effective for the 22-23 school year. And Emily Buckland, Giles Tech Center drafting teacher for the 22-23 school year.
I have a conflict of interest with with Ms. Buckland being my wife. I will abstain from all discussion and voting on this matter.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Are you sure you want to abstain, Mr. Buckland, in case it's a tight vote? All those are very excited, Dr. Arbogast. We'd like to see that list super, super long. All those in favor?
Thank you. I need to ask the board to approve the following resignations. Tiffany Reinhardt, Mason McClarity Teacher Assistant, June 30th, 2022. Adam Reinhardt, Giles Tech Center, ITRT, June 30th, 2022. Leslie Hale, Narrows High School Counselor, end of the 21-22 school year. Mel Wilcox, Narrows High School Special Ed AEP Teacher, June 21st, 2022. Scotty Potter, Eastern Elementary Middle School, Mason McClarity Assistant Principal, June 30th, 2022. Karen Spade, Narrows High School Music Teacher, June 28th, 2022. And Paul McIntyre, Mason McClarity Teacher Assistant, June 27th, 2022. I ask the board to approve all those resignations, please.
I'll move that we accept the resignations as presented by Dr. Arbogast.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I need to ask the board to approve the following contractual items. The first one, I need to ask the board to approve the bid for school calendars for the 22-23 school year. Only bid received was from Words Print in Blacksburg. That's for 3,200 calendars and inserts.
I'll move we approve the bid for the calendars.
No, second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I need to ask the board to approve the vision services from Allied Instruction Services. They've agreed to roll over the current bid for the 22-23 school year with price remain the same, and that's the first of 3 one-year rollovers. This will be the first of 3 one-year rollovers.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the services through for physical therapy through Korean Giles Community Hospital. They were going to increase the rate by 2% back during the pandemic. However, the school was not in session during for quite some time during that, so they did not do an increase. However, they're gonna do the following increase for PT, it's gonna be a 4% increase, and for PTA, it's gonna be a 4% increase, and the mileage is gonna increase to the IRS rate. So I ask the board to approve that for physical therapy.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Terry, what is that increase? What budget item do we set aside to cover that?
That's coming out of, special ed budget.
Okay. So that's not any kind of an issue?
Should be.
All right. And I know that the pandemic was a major factor, but if we could request that increases are annual and not to catch up, that would very much help us from the budgeting standpoint, but this was probably not a normal situation. So we do appreciate the partnership we have with them. And I know that those have been very helpful. So all those in favor?
This time I need to ask the board to approve the policy revisions that you received. Again, we've worked with VSBA Policy Services and have received updates to our policies and regulations or new policies. So at this time, I ask the board to approve those revisions.
Only thing I really saw with those, they took out all the he, she, and replaced it with board member. Is that the majority of those revisions?
So I was trying to get mine loaded to see.
There's
I thought there was,
there's a lot of stuff with respect to open meetings for you and things, but consistent with, again, I'm not our lawyer, but consistent with what the statutes say.
Okay.
I mean, I think a lot of it was just a lot of code, making sure it was compliant to the updated codes from what I recall looking through.
Privacy issues and some things like that.
We just gotta make sure we look at those, because I know we've in the past really leaned on VSBA and just kind of blanket approve what they send through. There's some topics that will be coming up more and more. We need to make sure that nothing slides through. And we just approve what VSBA gives us.
I think they do
It's
good.
community specific what we're good with, but I don't think anything in there this time.
And I think that, I think to defend the VSBA, I do think they did a decent job of straddling the lines between
They do.
us and maybe
We
Line County.
we appreciate what they do for us, but they'll, just making sure we take time to look at those, because there could be some stuff in there that some board members wanna make sure we're going in the direction we think this community should go on things, so. All right, we got a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
As you know, each year, VSBA requests that the board designate a delegate and alternate for the 2022 annual convention. In the past, it has been the board chairman has been the delegate, and the vice chair has been the alternate, respectively. So I would recommend the board appoint a delegate and an alternate for the 2022 annual convention, which is in November, I believe.
And I typically attend that, so if the board's okay with me continuing to take that role, I'm okay with it. But we can go a different route as well.
You just wanna go see play golf, Stevie. You go right ahead, I have no problem with that.
Amanda will make sure that everybody's aware. So, we can probably talk about what we meet.
If they have a hunting tournament in there, I might come.
On the golf course.
To give, just so you know, Mr. Pennington,
5 mile runner, 6.
every year we have that thing, it is sideways rain,
Yeah.
55 degrees.
Yeah.
It is not
Never been
typically
nice.
a very good situation, but, and it's also free.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as free golf.
Yeah, well,
It's the same.
Somebody's paying for it.
Nothing's free.
there's lots of sponsor names on there of architects trying to get the eye of our superintendent to get a chance to work here. Most of the time, that's good pays, but.
Do we need a motion for that? I'll make that motion.
Second.
Do we have okay. We're moving that it stays me and Mr. Buckland? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Got it. Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Couple other items I need to ask the board to approve. I'm gonna keep on going along if that's all right.
Yes, sir.
You received a copy of the June 16th minutes from our meeting. So at this time, I need to ask the board to approve those minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 16th minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Also, shared with you a resolution regarding the relationship that we have with, or current working relationship we have with Stride and the administrative fees that we receive. That was shared with you. I can read it, or we can, I can ask the board to approve it. I think you all received a copy of it, so I would ask the board to approve it at this time.
You wanna just paraphrase?
Purpose of the resolution is to follow up on the conversation from last week that just states that we are currently working with Stride to provide virtual instruction for some of our students that live in Giles County, but we also have over 1,270 non-residential students that are enrolled through us that participate with Stride as non-residential virtual learning students. And through that partnership, we receive some administrative fees from our agreement. And those administrative fees, we realize if those fees were to go away, there are some positions that are tied to those fees that we would have to determine how we would fund those moving forward in the event that those funds were to no longer be available.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
In addition, I need to ask the board to approve the 2022-2023 Giles County Public Schools budget. The total operating and flow-through amount for the 2022-23 budget is $49,744,586. The reason that you are, that we have discussed several times, the reason that dollar amount is higher is because, as we've talked about, we made sure to include the ESSER funds, ESSER 2, the ARP Act ESSER 3 funds, some of the coronavirus fiscal recovery funds, and the Stride non-virtual student funding that comes through us for ADM that we pay out to Stride for the services that they provide those non-residential students as well as the administrative fee that we talked about as well.
Can you read those numbers one more time?
You want me to read the numbers for
The budget, the totals again.
operating flow through is $49,744,586. That does include additional county revenue of $341,187, which would make a total county revenue operation for 22-23, $8,283,592.
That is exactly what I'm seeing from all the work sessions, so.
This is, as we've talked about, as we've discussed, this is a significant investment, investment in our instructional, in our staff, particularly our teaching staff. We really hope and anticipate that this will help us retain our current employees as well as attract other employees that will allow us to get back to operating at full staff levels. So I, on behalf of the staff members and employees in the school system, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for their support, but I also want to thank you all for your work on this as well, along with the Board of Supervisors, because this has been it's been a big process for us to go through. Just sorry that we had to wait as deep into June as we had to wait to get that information out, but it's been very positive, and we look forward to the benefits of that. But again, I want to thank you all on behalf of all of our staff members and the Board of Supervisors as well for that work and their continued support.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? This is the only thing we're supposed to do in general. I guess, it's a pretty big budget, Dr. O, I guess. It is. We've double, triple, quadruple checked. All the numbers look good.
He's in the bar now, buddy.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Contracts went out last.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this, and if the public's listening, this is a massive budget, and there are a lot of things in that budget that if the state took it back, we'd be in the same boat as everybody else in the state of Virginia. So we can either take what they've given us and do what we think's right for teachers and know that there's some risk every year we do that, or we can sit on a bunch of money and be super conservative, and it's not the right choice right now, so. I know personally I've had multiple teachers reach out and they said this was they were super surprised. They knew we were gonna try to do something, but this was a good shot in the arm.
I've heard from teachers, bus drivers, very, very appreciative of the work that has been done. One that would be particularly a bus driver, wanted to make sure I thanked you all for.
Yeah. All right, good budget. Good job, everybody.
A couple other items just to make you aware of. One, having conversations with John Ross through the county. I just want to make sure you all are comfortable with it. I think Narrows is losing their polling place moving forward. So they would like to make, as long as there's no issue with you all, I don't see any issue using Narrows High School as the polling place November and June. November, it's a teacher work day, there won't be students there anyway. Staff will be in the building, but I think they can work it so that it's not an issue. And in June, it should be after we're out of school anyway. So I just want to make sure you all didn't have any issue with that, and I'll let them know that they can move forward.
Where do they pull now?
VFW.
Yeah, there's some of that.
Okay.
I think that's a better location for the elderly to get in and out of that.
Yeah.
No, but we were thinking if you could go think about it, you go to the band room, you got the double door beside the band room, in the hallway, in the band room, and then you can come right out the single door in the band room, so
It's the best location to do it.
Plenty of parking, single level,
Yeah,
wheelchair
the
accessible.
VFW that's hard,
Yeah.
even with the rain.
Okay, so I'll communicate that with them to let them know that we're good with it. Just so you know, Giles High School on July 15th, that's a Friday. We don't have any staff or anybody in the building. The Sheriff's Department's gonna utilize Giles High School to do some training. So they'll have other.
Make sure that they put something out. I know you usually do a good job about that, but so that we don't get panic calls. But they normally do that anytime they're going to training, so people don't get.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have like a sign that said training session that you can see from 460 when they see 6 or 7 police cars in the parking lot.
And they have staff gym floors.
Yeah.
Staff gym floors.
They didn't make it over the tech center, I don't know, but I'm talking about it.
Shit on the gym floors.
For real, I mean, it would be nice to have a training and session sign. I think it won't matter.
Well,
what we
Yeah,
do.
all these people there, so they just need to have the teachers in there as well.
Yeah.
In addition, just to make sure that you're comfortable with it, we've done this every year, but again, I just want to make sure you're comfortable and I realize that the county's requested to use 4 buses, August 27th, 8 to 1, that's the river cleanup day. Want to make sure you're comfortable with it, and if so, we'll go ahead and let them know so that can be arranged. Okay, hearing none. Auditorium at Giles High School, we talked about it last week, or the week before, I forget which. Spoke to ZMM, gonna put that back out to bid and see what other responsive bids we can get. So you're gonna put that back out to bid for 10 days. Gym floors, 2 high schools should be done. You have a chance, go stick your head, just look at the back doors or something like that, they look nice.
They recommend us staying off of them for any particular amount of time on cures.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I don't know that, I haven't heard from them, I haven't talked to them directly.
I mean, I don't know if they need cure time.
I would assume that they'll need a little bit of cure time. One issue we did have in there's high school, having those units running, what do those units do? They compensate. So, and then you can't, I don't know how you get to those units if they're compensating because you can't put something on the floor to get to those units. So we're having to try to deal with that right now. So that was earlier this week. So.
We don't have a circus in town.
So, but they should be back, 2 weeks or so, I think, to do the elementary schools, just to seal those. I think it is, I think it's in July sometime. So that they'll be back to do those. I can't think of anything else, I think that's all. Anything else I have? Should be done. Okay.
I think we got one more agenda item.
Yes, before we do that, I guess, do we need to specify the, payment, is it the salary, or is that, I think that's subsumed in the contract language, did you get?
It is,
Okay, so we just need to extend it.
yes.
I move that we terminate the superintendent's contract ending June 30th, 2022, and appoint him as superintendent for the term of 3 years beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2025. Makes you a little nervous each time that.
I've been gone for 3 days, I'm like, okay, now wait a second.
Does anybody need the motion
I was like,
split
what
up into 2 different pieces?
I just took a drink of coffee, so Lisa and Amanda was like, I know, I was like, okay.
What if he got choked up like after the first part and he paused for a second?
I was like, what's going on?
I didn't include a pregnant pause for a certain purpose, just to make anybody nervous.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a good year, Dr. Argaz. You and Lisa, man, our staff, good year. It was, last few have been a little tough. And so this one, it's good. I feel like we're coming out of it and doing some good stuff. So,
Look forward to moving into 22-23 school year.
yeah.
A lot of good things gonna happen.
Anything else from staff?
Don't have anything right now.
All right.
That I'm aware of.
Mr. Pennington, you want to start with board closing remarks?
I guess I can. Well, like I always say, I'd like to thank Dr. Arbogast, Ms. Mustang, and Mr. Manor for all the hard work they do. Like Stevie said, it's been a rough few years. We're hopefully coming out of it. I'd like to thank everybody that has anything to do with the school system, teachers, bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria workers. It's just too many to name. Don't want to forget anybody, but thank everybody for what you've done this year. I think we've had a very successful year. Just keep up the good work. I'd like to congratulate all of our sports teams for all they did in their sports this spring. And can't name all they've done, but just congratulations to everybody. And like Dr. Arbogast said, just teachers, everybody got a raise. It wasn't completely all of us. It's the board of supervisors. You need to thank them too, because they were a big part of that. And we'd like to thank them for working with us and doing all they do to help us, our school system out. And just hope everybody has a good summer, safe summer, and come back in August and hit the ground running.
Well, I'm kind of gonna go on what Philip said. Again, thank you guys for the great year. It really has kind of flown by, because it's like, wow. Summer already, but into summer, so thank you guys again for that. And so exciting for our teachers and all of our staff that got raises. It was very well deserved and a long time coming, so thank you guys for being a big part of that. And again, looking forward to a new school year coming back, and hopefully we'll be really back to normal. So things is looking great. And other than that, just keep up the good work, guys. Thanks.
Again, thank, each board member and everybody in this room. Dr. Arbogast and Lisa and Amanda, I mean, nobody knows the work that goes into it, behind closed doors, and to the board of supervisors, there's a lot goes into it, but we've got one purpose, it's our kids, and, I don't think any of us ever forget that, but, the raise was great, well deserved for our teachers, but when, the smoke clears, it's all about our kids. It's what's best for them. These buildings, it's for their future, We talk about money here, money there, but it's for their future and their kids' future, because I'm telling you, times does move fast, so, I do appreciate the hard work everybody puts into it, and I hope everybody has a great summer, so thank you.
I want to thank everybody, as Philip said, involved with the school system we've had a great year. A year that's back to normal. Hopefully next year will be a truly normal year the whole time. Do want to thank again the board of supervisors for approving the funding, and approving the tax increase to do that. Do want to thank the taxpayers. I haven't heard anybody really complain about that, but that money, it makes a difference. We've heard from teachers, we're seeing it in our recruitment already and retention efforts that's going to make a difference. It's an investment in the future of this county. Everyone up here believes we've got one of the finest school systems around, and we're paying our folks like that, like we appreciate the work that they're doing. So, greatly appreciate that. And just looking forward to next year, you know, hopefully we'll have a great year then.
All right, that doesn't leave me much. Although I do like to talk, I don't have much after that. I'm gonna find something to say.
Oh, we know that.
Mark's gonna lay down over there, see.
Bring it to the
No,
next
the
time.
rest of the board said it all. We've had a tough, I mean, the board doesn't have it tough. I'm always careful to give all the kudos to the people who are putting the time in. We hope that this gives the teachers some newfound energy, because we need the ones that we have to really dig in and make the system their own and roll with it. Help us find some others, tell them how great it is to work here, and that challenge won't stop for us every year. Montgomery, Floyd, everybody else are gonna try to raise the bar too. So we need to help them keep championing, and I do wanna kind of remember Marion. He would have been very pleased with this budget. And he pressed really hard to get to where we are, and just glad that we could carry it through. So with that,
I move to adjourn.
got a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in